A day in the life of a nurse. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny, and I'm a nurse. Nursing is more than just my job. It's a calling that fills my days with purpose, connection, and sometimes heartache. Every day in the hospital is a blend of new challenges, stories, and people who leave a mark on my heart. Today, I want to share with you what it's like to be a nurse, the ways we experience and manage each day, and a couple of stories that have shaped me and taught me profound lessons about compassion and resilience. One of my patients was Mr. Williams, a retired teacher in his 70s who had come in for major surgery. From the first day, I sensed a quiet sadness in him. He didn't speak much, but his eyes held a lifetime of memories and a certain loneliness. One day, after I'd finished my usual checks, he softly asked if I could stay a bit longer. His voice was hesitant, almost apologetic, but something about his request made me stop. I sat down, and after a few moments, he began to open up. He shared stories about his late wife, his children, his years of teaching. As he spoke, I saw a spark in his eyes, as though he was reconnecting with a piece of himself. From that day on, I would spend a few minutes each day just talking with him. He'd tell me about the road trip he and his wife had taken across the country, or share a funny story from his classroom. These moments became a treasured part of my day. A reminder that, in nursing, it's not just about physical care, it's about making people feel seen and valued. When Mr. Williams was discharged, he looked at me with such warmth and gratitude. "Jenny," he said, "you helped me feel like myself again. You didn't just heal my body, you reminded me of who I am." Hearing those words reminded me why I chose this path. Nursing is not only about treating the physical body, it's also about nurturing the human spirit, even if only for a few minutes in a busy day. Not long after Mr. Williams left, I met Mrs. Turner, an elderly woman who had been admitted after a bad fall. She had no family listed on her contact sheet, no one who came to visit her, and it was clear she was carrying more than just physical pain. One day, as I was helping her adjust her blankets, she looked up at me with a tired expression and said, "It's strange, isn't it? To live so long and feel like you have no one left." Her voice was quiet but filled with sorrow, and I could feel the weight of those words. Over the next few days, Mrs. Turner began to share more with me. She told me about her family, how she had a son and daughter who, for reasons she didn't fully understand, had drifted away. She had missed family gatherings, holidays, and birthdays, and it had left a deep sadness within her. Listening to her, I felt a heaviness in my heart. Here was a woman who had lived so much of life, who had memories and experiences that shaped her, yet she felt abandoned and alone. One afternoon, she looked at me and said, "Jenny, you're the only person I feel I can talk to." Her words reminded me of the emotional aspect of nursing, the part that often goes unseen but is so essential. I couldn't change her family situation, but I could be there to listen. Every day, I spent a little extra time with her, talking, listening, sometimes just sitting quietly by her side. She shared stories of her childhood, her late husband, and the life she wished she could tell her children about. And though I couldn't take away her loneliness, I knew that our conversations gave her a sense of comfort, if only for a moment. Nursing is filled with these moments, times when I wish I could do more, but I realize that being there, listening, and showing empathy can be incredibly powerful. It's a job that demands strength and resilience, but it's also filled with beauty and connection. Mr. Williams reminded me of the importance of helping people feel like themselves, while Mrs. Turner showed me the deep impact of simply being present for someone who feels forgotten. There are days when the emotional toll of nursing weighs heavily on me, when I go home thinking of the people I've met and the stories I've heard. The long shifts and the physical demands can be exhausting. But in those quiet moments, when a patient looks at you with gratitude or shares a piece of their heart, it makes everything worth it. These small acts of kindness, a warm smile, a listening ear, can mean everything to someone who feels alone. When Mrs. Turner was transferred to a long-term care facility, she held my hand tightly and said, "Thank you for seeing me, Jenny. Thank you for listening." Those words stay with me, reminding me that nursing is about more than medications and treatments. It's about compassion, connection, and the simple act of being there for others. So, To anyone watching this who's curious about nursing or considering a career in healthcare, know that this work is as rewarding as it is demanding. You'll face hard days, but you'll also find purpose in ways you never imagined. And to my fellow nurses and healthcare workers, remember that the care you give, even in the smallest moments, can change someone's life. After Mr. Williams and Mrs. Turner, I carried a new awareness with me, almost like a promise to be present for every patient in whatever way they needed. My next experience was with a young man named Alex. He was in his early 30s, but due to a severe car accident, he had to undergo multiple surgeries and a lengthy rehabilitation. He was quiet at first, withdrawn, and seemed almost reluctant to accept help. But I knew there was more beneath the surface, so I approached him gently, allowing him space but letting him know I was there. One afternoon, while I was changing his Alex finally opened up. He told me about his young daughter, who was staying with his sister during his recovery. The pain of being away from her was harder than any of his injuries. I saw the anguish in his eyes, the worry that he might never be the same again, or that he might miss precious moments with her. We talked about his dreams for his daughter and his hopes for their future. I encouraged him to focus on each small step in his recovery, and gradually, he began to find strength in those daily victories. His determination inspired me, and I was reminded that nursing isn't just about treating the body, it's about uplifting the spirit and encouraging hope, even in the darkest times. A few weeks later, I had another unique encounter with a patient named Rosa, an elderly woman who didn't speak much English. Language barriers are always challenging, but nursing has taught me that compassion transcends language. Rosa was recovering from a complex surgery, and I knew she was scared. Using a mix of broken Spanish, hand gestures, and lots of smiles, I tried to make her feel comfortable. Every morning, I would greet her warmly and bring a little flower from the hospital garden to place on her bedside table. One day, she held my hand, and though I couldn't fully understand her words, I could feel her gratitude. In that moment, I understood how much comfort lies in kindness, even when words fall short. As nurses, we often juggle multiple roles: caregiver, listener, cheerleader, friend, and sometimes even a family member for those who feel alone. Each day is unpredictable, filled with surprises and challenges. One morning, just after finishing my rounds, I was called to help with a crisis in the emergency ward. There was a sense of urgency as I walked in, and I could feel the tension in the air. A young boy had been brought in after a severe asthma attack. His mother was visibly distraught, her hands shaking as she watched us tend to him. In that moment, instinct took over. I comforted her as best as I could, reassuring her that her son was in good hands. I stayed with her, sharing in her anxiety, and when the boy's breathing stabilized, the relief on her face reminded me once again of the importance of our role as nurses. We're there not only to treat, but to comfort, to offer strength when others feel vulnerable. The long hours, the unpredictability, the physical and emotional toll, it's all part of the journey. But these experiences, these connections, are what keep me going. Alex taught me about the strength in vulnerability and the courage it takes to face recovery one day at a time. Rosa showed me that kindness has no language, and that sometimes the smallest gestures speak volumes. And that mother in the emergency room reminded me of the profound impact we have in moments of crisis, even when words are few. So, to anyone considering nursing, know that it's a journey like no other. It's demanding, it's challenging, but it's also filled with so much purpose and reward. And to my fellow nurses and healthcare workers, remember that every moment you spend caring, listening, and simply being present makes a world of difference. We are stronger for the compassion we give, and we're never alone on this path. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope these stories remind you of the beauty in caring for others and the resilience we all have within us. I look forward to sharing more with you in the future. Stay strong, stay compassionate, and remember, you're making a difference every single day.